Stand for the pledge. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. I think everybody's aware that we've lost a member of our City of Newman family in the passing of Jim Bell. Lord, we just ask that you touch the Bell family and comfort them during this time of loss. Jim was an intricate part of the police department for many years. He's going to be sorely missed. We just ask that you comfort the Bell family as they prepare to lay Jim to rest, and just keep him in your hearts and your prayers. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Hutchins.
Present.
Candia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez.
Present.
Mayor King.
Present. Just for everybody's information, Friday the 17th from 5 to 7 will be a public viewing at the OLM Church, and Rosary will be at 7 at the OLM Church for Jim Bell. The services will be Saturday the 18th. There will be another public viewing and a celebration of life at 1, and then a reception to follow at the Orange High School cafeteria. Then actually on the Tuesday the 21st at 10, there'll be a private family burial at San Joaquin National Cemetery. So again, if on the 17th and 18th, show respect for Mr. Bell would be greatly appreciated. And if any other information, just contact City Hall and give you anything you need. Okay, we'll go to declaration of conflicts of interest. Seeing none, we'll go to ceremonial matters. We don't have any this evening. Item 7, items from the public, non-agenda items. Any member of the public wish to address the council? Now it's time to do it. Go to item 8, consent calendar. A is waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions except by title. B is approval of the warrants. C is approval of the minutes of the January 24, 2012 regular meeting. D is adopt resolution 2012 next to number authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the county of Stanislaus for the utilization of county-owned GIS equipment. E is authorize chief of police to enter into a memorandum of understanding, thereby forming the Stanislaus County Regional Apprehension Team. Council direction.
I'd like to pull item E, please.
Item E, okay. Item E for separate consideration, items A through D. Council direction.
Move to approve the consent calendar items A through D.
I second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item E, authorize chief of police to enter into a memorandum of understanding, thereby forming the Stanislaus County Regional Apprehension Team. Don?
Just had a couple of questions for the chief. On this, is this going to be like the different teams that they have where you actually have men assigned out of the department to be on these teams, or is it going to be something a little bit different?
It's kind of like the avoid the 12, and where you go overtime basis, so it won't be a specific assigned teams throughout the year. It'll be whoever's off duty can join up on the specific days where they're going to do target these individuals and go out, and then we'll be reimbursed by the probation department.
Okay, so it's not going to be like Skidoo or?
No.
Okay.
And it's no taking manpower from the city. It's on overtime basis.
Okay. That was the only question I had.
Chief, could you just real quick explain what AB 109 is, just so everybody kind of understands what that is?
AB 109 was the realignment from the state prisons. They've now shifted people that were coming out on parole away from the parole department and given them to the probation department. So it's your nonviolent offenders, considered nonviolent offenders. So only ones that parole still has are your sex offenders and murderers at this point in time. Everybody else falls under the umbrella of the probation department. So probation department has gotten a lot bigger, and the people that are absconding and not checking in and on time are the ones that we're going to be targeting to go find out where they are and bring them back into custody.
Great. Thanks. Okay, item E.
I move for approval of item E.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Item 9, public hearings. There are none tonight. Number 10, regular business. A is adopt resolution number 2012, next to number resolution adopting the mid-year changes for fiscal year 2011-2012. Lou?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Newman City Council. The goal of the mid-year budget review is to take stock of the revenues and expenditures of the current fiscal year and project our ending fund balances. It's also an opportunity for us to make adjustments to our current budget, which was set in June of last year. And now that the mid-year has come and gone, we have a better view of our current fiscal year revenue streams and expenditures. Reports from the county, state, federal, and private market have been examined, as well as our revenues and expenditures across all funds. All of our fund balances are projected to have positive ending balances, with the exception of our state grants, storm drain, and the redevelopment/successor agency fund. The state fund is negative due to the delay between expenditures and receipts of grant monies. Storm drain fund is negative due to pending fee credit liabilities. The development/successor agency fund is negative due in part to the dramatic drop in tax increment revenues over several years caused by the downturn of home values as compared to the expenditures charged to the RDA. For example, in the 2008-2009 fiscal year, the RDA received just above $874,000 in tax increment revenue. It has been on a steady decline, with this year projected to have received about half of that amount. With the city now as a successor agency, our goal is to retire all the debts associated with the former RDA and bring the fund to a zero balance. In the staff report before you, in Exhibits A and B, are comparisons of our budget versus actual revenues and expenses. In looking at Exhibit A, it should be noted that our general fund revenues do not arrive in equal amounts each month. The majority of our funds arrive in the second half of the fiscal year. In Exhibit B, you'll notice that our general fund expenditures are coming in under budget. In Exhibits C and D show requested budget adjustments to our revenues and expenditures. As you see in Exhibit C, we're budgeting an increase of $123,500 in general fund revenues, and in Exhibit D, we're budgeting an additional $278 in general fund expenses. The last page, Exhibit E, takes our audited starting balance and applies our June budget with the adjustments the council has approved between July and December, then adds these requested mid-year adjustments to arrive at an estimated ending fund balance for the year. In our current adopted budget from last June, we projected a general fund deficit this year of $65,049. After the mid-year review, using conservative projections, we project a gain of $58,173, with a general fund ending balance of about $3.09 million. The gain equates to a 2% increase over our beginning audited fund balance, leaving us with an 84.5% reserve of annual operating costs. This is a healthy fund. In this economy, and compared to other Central Valley cities, we're setting an excellent example of a fiscally responsible city. Now, regarding our economic outlook, over the last 5 to 6 years, we've been seeing a reduction in both property tax and sales tax revenues. This year, assessed property values went up. Newman's assessed property values increased by the highest percentage of all cities in Stanislaus County, 1.47%. There was only one other city that went up, and that was Patterson. They were 0.8, everybody else went down again. Sales tax revenues have also increased. As the economy continues to return, we will most likely see sales tax revenues increase at a greater rate than property taxes in the short term, until at such time as the new home market returns. Sales and use taxes grow as rapidly as the economy. However, due to Prop 13, property tax gains on existing homes can be limited to a 2% gain per year over their taxable base. But as new homes are added, additional property tax revenues are dramatically increased over former property taxes on an empty lot. Many of our formerly empty homes are now occupied. We have seen an increase of about 40 utility accounts over the last 12 months. The City of Newman is financially solvent. If we continue on our path of making sound use of our money and continue to be mindful of our expenses, we will continue to remain financially solvent. Despite the downturn in the economy over the last 6 years, the City of Newman is still able to meet all of its debt obligations on time. I ask that the council approve the budget adjustments as proposed. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions of Lou?
Lou, I know you say we've got 40 new accounts. As the foreclosed homes, as they're resold, of course, they're resold at a much lower value.
That's correct, so the tax base drops.
Our tax base does drop, but we still have an increment in there that we will receive once it's sold.
That's correct. Yeah, prior year tax. So if somebody hadn't paid their property taxes on that particular property, once the property is sold, that amount is collected. We actually did see a decrease so far this year in prior year property taxes. which means that during all those sales that happened last year, a lot of that stuff's getting cleared out, which in one sense is good in that we're getting all of our taxes collected. In the other sense, we have a lot of properties now that are at lower tax base. That's why I was saying if we bring in more new homes, immediately that adds a big chunk over what an empty lot brings us in tax revenues.
Well, I guess one of the questions is, say a house sits there 3 to 4 years,
Right.
and they're supposed to collect the property taxes from those previous years.
Correct.
Do they go back and give us the property tax
Oh, yes.
increment for those 3 to 4 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's collected later on, once the property is sold, but yes. All prior year taxes are accounted for.
But we see them over an increment of time rather than like in one fell swoop, so to speak.
Yes and no. I'm not exactly sure how the county does all of their data, all their calculations. However, we are on the teeter rule, which gives us the 55% in December, and then 40% and 5% later on in April and June. But I think they do withhold some monies until everything is collected. So we do get a prior year kind of an adjustment or catch-up.
It's collected in escrow at the point of sale.
Yes,
From
when
the
the
lender.
when the property is sold. But he's talking about when
When
somebody
the
hasn't
county
paid
actually
taxes. Yeah,
sends it down to us.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, Lou.
Any other questions? Okay, direction from council?
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2012, next number, resolution adopting the mid-year changes for fiscal year 2011, 2012.
I second that motion.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Lou. Item B is appointment of members to fill vacancies on the Planning Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, and Architectural Review Committee. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. It's that time of the year where we try to fill spots on our commission. At this point in time, we have two full vacancies on our Planning Commission. On our Recreation Commission, we have two full 4-year terms, and then we still have an outstanding third term, which is 3 years left in that term, and that would go through 2015. And then we still have two full terms. They're 2 years in length for the Architectural Review Committee. With respect to the Planning Commission, Ms. Vicki Lucas and Ms. Lorna Sloan, who are in attendance tonight, have both reapplied for their positions and would like to be reassigned. For the Rec Commission, Mr. Richard Gayton could not be here tonight. He has been on the Recreation Commission for a number of years and has chaired that. Ms. Maria Evans, who is not here, would be a new Rec Commissioner. And then we only have 2 applications, and again, we have 3 open slots for that. A third young gentleman has expressed an interest but did not get his application in as of yet. And then on the Architectural Review Committee, Mr. Kent Madenwall and Mr. David Reed have re-upped for those 2 positions that they've been serving for a number of years now. And again, those 2 terms are 2 years in length.
Council, you have the pleasure of interviewing the candidates for the positions, or we can forego the interviews since we have people re-upping for those positions and just make the appointment.
No interrogation? Wow.
And given the fact that we still have one additional position on Recreation Commission to fill, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And
Do we
then,
need I'm sorry.
what I would say to you with Miss Evans, you can either give her the full term or you can give her the partial term, which has about 3 years remaining on it. That one expires in 2015, where the full term would expire in 2016.
Council pleasure.
Do we need to take these, Tom, and separate?
You could do them all together if you like, yeah.
I'll make a motion, we accept all of them for the full term, unless there's...
I'd love to second that.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You are back on. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate your willingness to volunteer and serve on those committees. It's a thankless job, I know, kind of like this one, but But we appreciate your input and hard work, and so carry on. Okay, I'll go to item 11, items from District 5 Supervisor Jim DeMartini.
Good evening, Mayor Caton, council members. One thing I do like about Newman's, your council meetings just move right along, not the case in other cities. I have a few things tonight. As I know that you're aware of the stakeholders meeting for the Oristemba Flood Control Project. I noticed you had it posted back there, so you're aware of it. I will be coming to that with our Public Works Director as we try and get this project done. I did get some good news this afternoon that Congressman Cardoza did get another $223,000 to what in the email said complete the feasibility study. And so as you recall, the feasibility study was a 2-year project that was going to cost $600,000. It is now 14 years. And this $223,000 will bring it just about at $7.5 million. So hopefully this will be the completion of the feasibility study. And then, of course, after that, then you have design, which is, who knows how much that's going to cost. And then once you finish the design, then eventually you build the project. So it's been a long road, but I am encouraged by what I got today that Congressman Cardoza was able to get the last of the money that was needed. And I tell you, without him pushing for this project would have collapsed years ago. And then the only other thing I have is the Healthcare Task Force. We will be meeting here in Newman on March 22nd. To do some planning. The task force has decided to become a 501c3 nonprofit. I have found an attorney that would do the paperwork for nothing, pro bono. Keith Boggs from the Chief Executive Office now is back assigned to the task force, and he will write our business plan, and we're going to come up with some bylaws, and hopefully by March 22nd, we should have all the paperwork and everything in place. As far as I know, I think we can do it in this amount of time. And then the task force has decided to, again, for our Biggest Loser weight loss contest, to start here in Newman. Probably be sometime about mid-August to kick off our health summit, and also have the Way Out in Newman this year also. We weighed out last year in Gustine, the year before in Patterson. So the Biggest Loser contest will begin in Newman and end in Newman this year. And I believe we had decided to do an 8-week weight loss project, so it will be roughly, we haven't picked the date yet, but roughly about the 15th of August to about the 15th of October. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
We'll go to item 12, items from City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just an update on where we're at with the City Hall project. Currently, we still have some interior construction going on. Carpet has been selected, and we're looking at maybe an install in the next probably 2 weeks on that. Furniture's been ordered. Probably second week of March, that should be installed. You gotta go carpet, and then you get your furniture in, and then we have our case work, our new counter will come in shortly after the furniture, and then we'll hang some cabinets, not only in the copier center area, but we'll be hanging some cabinets in the break room to go in there as well. And then the cabling guys come back, and then they bring all the electrical and cables to each of the individual workstations, and then the phone guy comes in and sets all that up. So we're trying to keep all these pieces together. There's a lot of them to manage, and we're meeting every week as staff, and everything's still on target to get done. So we're excited about it. March 30th, I think is the date. Yeah, March 30th we'll be closing City Hall. So that way everybody will be moving their own personal belongings over there, and then moving into their new workstation and setting that up. So they'll have one day to go ahead and do that. A lot of the furniture and desks and stuff are not going because they're older. They're probably 20 years old. So we're getting new furniture and stuff to go in there. So everything's moving forward. Still plan on it. And then the city is currently scheduled to host a chamber mixer in August up in the new City Hall building. So our goal will then be to make sure that the council chamber is all set up and ready to go at that time. It's kind of a grand opening type event, and we'll welcome the community to come in as we host a chamber mixer on there. One of the decisions that we're making right now is when you're downstairs in the lobby and you're kind of going back to where the elevator's at, there right now it's just all concrete over there. You know, it's not too attractive, so we're going to go ahead and level that floor and float the floor, level it out a little bit, and then we'll come back in and put 18 or 20 inch tiles out there too, just to kind of spruce that up, because we want to people to have a aesthetically pleasing area if they're going to come on in and go into the back and up the elevator and go that way. So everything's working out great. Again, we're still on schedule to be in there. Phone systems are coming through. We're going to be able to keep our 862-3725 number. The police department will keep their numbers. Our fax number will remain the same, and Teen Center and the Public Works Department, 2 numbers. After that, the numbers are going to change because when you go to a voice over internet protocol, that type of system, there wasn't a block of numbers that we could buy. So when each person gets their individual phone numbers, it's going to be a 243 prefix. So we've had a lot of interesting conversations around phone calls. AT&T basically couldn't support us in what we were trying to achieve here. They said if you guys want that kind of system, you're going to have Los Bonos prefixes, and everybody calling you is going to be a long distance call for them. We said, well, that's not going to work. We all like our job, so we're going to we all like our job, so we'll figure that out. So anyways, we're going to keep 7 or 8 phone numbers the same. Everybody can still call 862-3725, and they'll get whoever they need to get there. So I think that's the important thing for our community is they've come to rely on certain numbers that they can access people from, and then the Public Works Department, Police Department, and City Hall. They're still going to be able to do that. So with a challenge, but we got it done. Basketball still moving forward right now. Currently, youth basketball and men's league are both ongoing at this time. Youth basketball will go through the end of this month. And men's basketball through March? Till May. So they get a longer season. The Quaskey Centennial planning meeting was held last week. The next meeting will be on 2/29. It's a Wednesday at 6 p.m. in this meeting hall. As you know, the city of Newman turns 125 years old in 2013. We're starting a planning committee to try to get a jump on this game. There was a lot of great discussion that went on. Really no big decisions were made. Just dialogue, throwing things up against the wall to see how they stick. There's a proposal out there that a lot of people seem to like, which was to try to spread the event over the full year. Now, April 28th is really what's called Founders Day. When you look back into history, it was on April 28th, 1888, when the railroad brought a car in. People got off the train, went down to Pioneer Park, and that's when Simon Newman greeted them and brought them out there and then sold lots off around the town. So that's really what we're calling Founders Day, April 28th. In 2013, that day falls on a Sunday. So the general idea right now is you just have a long weekend of events, maybe a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or a Friday, Saturday, Sunday worth of events, and get about 3 or 4 good days in there and really celebrate the city's centennia, if you will, Quaskey Centennia. And then have another event in around June, probably something on the plaza. Again, just trying to keep the event alive. Then we roll that in, and then obviously in September is the Fall Festival. Fall Festival Committee is really on board with it, and they're going to take that thread, the thread of the 125 years, and weave it through the Fall Festival event. And then what we'll do is continue that thread through all the way down and tie it off at the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. So you're really trying to spread this event out over a full year. Originally, when they did a lot of the discussion was when they did the centennial in 1988, it was an 8 or 9 day long event straight. They said people started getting tired after about 6 days of straight events, So this year we thought, why don't try to spread this thing out over a full year and really do it upright. So that's the current proposal, and it's still being shot around, and how that's going to final out, we don't know, but the committee will work on it. At the next committee meeting, a couple of things is we're going to select some co-chairs, people to chair the committee and to get that going. As a council, one thing you'll want to start thinking about is a budget. We need to be able to provide the committee a budget. So staff's going to probably work up some numbers with you and see what we think is probably an appropriate budget for getting this event kicked off, and that'll be in your next fiscal year budget. And actually, it'll be over 2 years, 2 fiscal years. So we'll probably bring that back to you here shortly. So again, 2/29, which is Leap Day, 6 p.m. here in the council chambers if anybody's interested. Madam President would be upset with me if I didn't mention the John T. Silvera Awards on March 24th. Farewell to Paris, I believe is what it's going to be called. So get your tickets. I'm sure there's plenty of chamber members out there that would be happy to sell them to you. So if you're interested in tickets, though, see Mike and let him know which of you would like to get a council table together. Like we did last year. The city got 2 tables together last year, so if you're interested in that, please let us know ahead of time. With that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Michael?
That would be interesting noted. In the year 250, as we are still talking about the Oristemba flood control.
Yeah, long after we're gone. Okay.
Speak for yourself.
You planning on being around a long time?
Yeah,
Yeah?
I'm gonna make the next
Well,
sentence.
you can keep up the fight. Then. Okay, staff. Stephanie? Chief? Lou? Stephanie? Nothing? Of course Garner does. Step on up.
Yeah,
I was
he's-
asked to give my long version of my presentation tonight, so, I mean, short version.
There you go. There you go.
I think I can step up to that
Gonna
occasion. So
review you tonight.
tonight I'm here. Thank you. So tonight I'm here to present the Public Works Department 2011 year in review. I'll quickly move through the slides. Anytime there's any questions, interrupt me as you see fit. I'll step aside a little bit here so I don't get hit. Real quickly, we're going to run through the budget, the public works statistics, run through the divisions of government buildings, parks, streets, water, sewer divisions, our capital improvement projects, our department needs, and the department goals that we've identified. For public works in 2011, we had a total of $4.7 million in expenditures. In the general fund, we represented 8% or $284,000. So the majority of our funding that we utilize is not from the general fund. We try to minimize our impact on that. For public works quick statistics, in 2009 and 10, we had 13 full-time equivalent employees. In 2011, we did add a part-time employee to help with our sewer collections division to ensure we are properly maintaining that. Comparison for 2010 versus 2011, for work orders, we saw a slight increase, about 39 increase in work orders on that. Meter reads were about equal at 39,000, almost 40,000 meter reads. For water pumped, we did increase to 746 million gallons this year, slight increase. And you'll see a graph later on in the presentation that'll show the history of all of our water that we pumped. Wastewater treated, we did see a slight increase in that as well, 436 million gallons. For farming production, we increased from 1,450 tons in 2010 to 2,916 tons in 2011. Street swept, we went from sweeping once a year to twice a year. In 2010, this wasn't the full year, so that's why it isn't quite double at 1,500 miles. Debris removed, we saw a significant decrease in debris removal In 2010, we had an aggressive campaign. We really went out there and ensured that we got all the debris picked up, and there must have been a lot less prunings. That's why that number dropped significantly. Dropped in recycled tires, and our capital improvement projects did reduce a little bit. However, that doesn't indicate of how busy we were. We did defer 2 projects into 2012 this year. Government buildings and parks responsible for janitorial services and minor repairs for approximately 20 facilities, about 1.5 million square feet annually. This didn't change or increase or decrease this year. Park maintenance repairs, we have 16 parks and landscape areas. Overall, it's about 1.6 miles annually that we were responsible for the maintenance and repair for parks and landscape areas, and approximately 2,100 street trees. For our streets division, comparison for the last 3 years, we saw a slight increase in our pothole repairs for over 2010, but for 2009, it's actually a decrease. In 2009, we were out there, we were getting everything we could take care of, so we hope to see a trend where it kind of drops down, we maintain around that number. Graffiti removal, we saw a significant drop in graffiti removal. We do credit the police department for their active investigations and catching those. They're responsible for that, so that's a great number to see reduced. Sidewalk repairs, slight increase, but overall a decrease from 2009. We're really trying to stay on top of that. We have a project coming up this year that we're going to be doing a lot of sidewalk repairs in the older part of town. Streetlight repairs, slight increase, 41 in 2011 versus 22 in 2010. Our street sweeping, again, is 1,330 miles, which is probably going to stay consistent over the next couple of years because we do sweep those on a regular basis. That's contracted out. Debris removal, slight decrease, as I stated earlier. And then our sidewalk striping and crosswalk stop bars, that stayed consistent. Our significant projects we did for the 2011, we installed 113 tons of our recycled rubber bark. That's just for our park areas. In 2012, we'll move on to the landscape areas and finish those up. And then we removed 20 street trees, which was part of our urban grant that we received, and we'll be installing those in 2012. For our water division, in 2011, we did see the increase in the water that we pumped, 746 million gallons. However, that is a significant decrease from 2007. You'll see the chart next on that. Water meters read, that stayed consistent, approximately 37,000 meters. Water system samples, very consistent, between 450 to 550 every year. The number of samples we take is dependent on our water quality, and every year that varies on the number of samples that we take. Water system service repairs, significant increase in that, and we're probably going to see another significant increase as we go along. As the system ages, we have more repairs that we do. Backflow units tested stayed very consistent. All backflow units were tested and passed. Our projects, we did purchase 2 additional pickups for the water department and installed a new altitude program for the water tank. We were experiencing severe pressure spikes, which accounted for the increase in the water system service repairs. We're finding that we're having some competing going on between one of our wells and our water tank, and that was causing our systems to spike sometimes up to 80 psi, 80 pounds per square inch, and that was causing system repairs. So we instituted, our new public works superintendent noticed that, got in, put a new program in, and has since eased those pressures, and we're staying really, really consistent, which is important. There's a graph I was talking about earlier. In 2007, we did peak at 922 million gallons, which is really, really significant. That's probably attributable to a hot summer, long or short spring, more water, outdoor watering going on. In addition to that, with the economy, we've seen a lot less watering, and with the wet winter we had in 2010, that's why it dropped down. I think it was 733 million gallons in 2010, but now we're seeing it increase in 2011. And you can probably expect that that's going to increase in 2012 due to the lack of rain that we've had recently. Sewer, something everybody likes to talk about. I enjoy talking about it, so I have a big chart to talk about. So in 2011, we did see a slight increase in wastewater. Our irrigation also increased, 320 million gallons in 2011. Our samples stayed consistent in 2011 versus 2010. But what's significant here is our farming production. We did see a significant increase in our farming production. Our net over farming was $85,000 this year. 2012, we expect to see a decrease. We had to take some farmland out of production due to overuse of that land, but we'll see that start increasing. One of the projects identified down here, we did purchase 142 acres of additional farmland. So in 2013, we hope to see that number jump even above the 85,000. Sewer lines cleaned, we saw a slight increase over 2010, a little bit of decrease over 2009. In storm drain repairs, we stayed fairly consistent, 28 to 30 to 24. This is an important number, sanitary sewer overflows. Zeros are good. That means we didn't have any sewage coming up on the streets, which is important for the protection of our citizens. Sludge removal project might be a little misreading here. We actually have 18.8 that we reduced. We didn't have another 20. It was just 1.2 inches further. 2012, we hope to see that project completed. Projects that were significant for the wastewater and sewer division was the purchase of the 142 acres at the wastewater plant for additional farmland and irrigation. That's going to be put into production this year. We're going to be going in laser leveling it, putting additional irrigation lines in for that. Installed an aerator and aeration basin number 2. Replaced 3,100 linear feet of fencing. The last 3 projects listed here, the anti-degradation analysis, the draft CEQA, and the monitoring wells are all part of the new permit that we're under negotiations with the Regional Water Quality Control Board. We hope to have that completed by May or June of 2012 of this year. Next slide. I'm not getting any use out of this, Mikey. Thank you, sir. Work orders. Quick comparison of our work orders overall. We did see a slight increase, 511 versus 577 in 2011. We did see a big increase in the water division. Some of this I attribute to them keeping better track of their records. I really put the squeeze on them. We have to be accountable for what we do. We have to be able to report what we do. The rest of them stayed fairly consistent up and down the board. Sewer division saw a slight decrease, 38 versus 10. Capital improvement projects, 2006-2011 comparison. In 2010, we saw a high amount of them, 13 projects for $3.8 million. That biggest portion of the $3 million there was the Plaza project at $2.4 million. And we did drop down in 2011. We had 9 projects. We deferred 2 to 2012 this year, total of $773,000. Here's a rundown of the projects for that $773,000. The aerators at the wastewater plant, the monitoring wells, the downtown plaza restrooms for $150,000, our new municipal test hole. Phase 2 of the CDBG project, which is S&T streets, curb gutters, and sidewalks, that was completed this year. Upper road landscaping project, and then the Main Street intersections project. Those were the 7 projects for 2011. For 2012, big list. Overall, we have $1.6 million planned in projects. 2 projects are rollovers from 2011. The M Street sewer line project is rolled over. And then phase 3 was planned for 2011, but that project is rolled over into 2012. Both of those projects should be out to bid in the next month. The biggest projects that we have listed in here, we have a CNG fast fill facility at $400,000. Develop additional farmland at the wastewater plant. That's 142 acres I just mentioned earlier. The M Street sewer line project is another significant project we're going to do. Finish up our grant projects. We have the recycle grant project, the urban forestry grant project, and then one we just recently received funding on was the electrical vehicle grant. Those vehicles are about 2 weeks out, 2 to 4 weeks out for receiving those, and you'll see the chief running around in his nice new electric vehicle. 2011 goals that were identified. So going through, there's some checklists and some that aren't checked off. We did complete our training program. We now have yearly, seasonal, weekly training and a safety program for all of our employees that we implemented. Wastewater permit, that one was not completed. That will be completed. We're under the understanding from the regional board that we're scheduled for the May-June timeframe for adoption of that permit. Our 5-year capital improvement program at the last city council meeting, that was accepted by council, and it's been a useful document for our planning purposes. The water rate study, we do have the final draft that is due February 12. Staff is completing their final review to ensure that we've checked everything thoroughly on that, and then we'll get the final review and then commission the ad hoc committee again to go through that, probably looking at the ad hoc committee in March. Our public works survey was completed. We did receive really good positive feedback on it, but there's also identified areas for improvement, and we're implementing that now. We're implementing areas for improvement. One of them was image. We want to improve our image out there. When you see a public works person out there working, you can identify that they're consistent. Similar to what the police department has implemented, they're consistent across their uniforms. We're doing the same. Another item in here that we did not complete was the evaluation of the memorial building improvements. Once we started working on this project, we figured out that there's more than just one project to do. There's about 3 major projects. We want to look at the best expenditure of our money. We've identified 3 projects. The building department, we're working with them to prioritize which ones are probably most critical to do first. And once we get that completed, then we're going to phase that in. That was in our capital improvement program that you adopted last council meeting. In addition to that, one of the projects we had was to evaluate and bring options to City Council on the Main Street projects. Not only we evaluate and provide options, but we completed that project, and that will be before council, next council meeting for acceptance. And the last item I have on here is complete our capital projects. We did roll over 2 projects to 2012, and those will be completed. in 2012 calendar year. Our 2012 goals: complete the 4 items that were not completed in 2011, which is the permit amendment, the water rate study, the memorial building improvements, and the 2011 capital projects that were not completed in 2011. And we have 4 new goals here for 2012, is to develop the land at the wastewater plant, complete the CNG fast fill facility, Inyo Avenue, Highway 33, begin the design on the improvements for that project. We're currently working with our traffic engineer and Caltrans to get those improvements designed. And then move into New City Hall. That one will be completed by the end of March, which is nice. We can move on to new things. One too many. Department needs. So we came through and we have identified some of our department needs, vehicles and equipment, identified a parks truck, the dump truck and a Vector truck. If we get grants for those, we're putting in for CMAQ competitive grants for those. If we do acquire that a grant, then we'll move forward to purchase those. Those would be CNG vehicles as well. Lawn aerator for the Parks Department and a thermoplastic striping machine for our Streets Department. A lot of the striping in the newer neighborhoods, it's all thermoplastic, and you can't just paint over that. You have to use a new thermoplastic over the top of it. So we identified our immediate staffing needs and our long-term staffing needs. Due to the increase in the farming at the wastewater plant, we've identified a wastewater treatment plant operator that is necessary to complete that project and ongoing farming. We've also identified within the next 3 to 5 years a project manager to help with all the projects that we have coming up. We have 12 identified for this year, and I don't see a decrease coming. So approximately 3 to 5 years from now, it'd be good to have a project manager on for the water, sewer, LOD, and grants, and other projects that we have identified through grants, CMAQ and RSTP funding. In 2011, when I did 2010 when I did the presentation, we identified a new corporation yard. In lieu of a new corporation yard, we've taken what we had and improved it to what we think is working within our means. If you already have a yard, it may not be large enough, but you might as well make it the best that you can. So here's the before and after pictures from 1 year. Through the help of Mike Myers, we were able to purchase a recycled sign, put it in. We're going to be coming in and putting some landscaping improvements in. At the rear of the yard, just what it looked like a year ago, just what it looks like now. In the near future, we're going to be putting some more canopies along here so we can put the new electric vehicles in there and have their charging stations for them. So they've come in, they put in some new gravel into the parking lot, new gravel in the back, they've cleaned it all up. You can't see in the picture, but just on this side of the picture, there's new storage bins for all the materials are cut back and their base rock and things of that nature. They're really making it look like a really nice corporation yard, so they're working within their means, and it's working out real well for them. They've really taken a positive approach to it. Got the old sign back on top of the building over here. They completely repainted the exterior of the building. This year we hope to get inside, and last year I showed you pictures of the inside of the building. This year I'm not showing you insides. Next year you'll see the before and after of that. They're going to get in and completely redo that. The new superintendent is really taking it upon himself to make that a very livable facility for what we have. So with that, here's your 2011 Public Works team. I got a little drum roll. That was here for the whole year to help produce all these projects, and they take full credit and full responsibility for everything, including the wonderful decorations for the plaza. So with that, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Great job. Any questions or comments? Great job. Thanks, Gardner. Appreciate it. Okay. Items from council members. Nick?
Nothing tonight.
Bob?
Nothing tonight.
Don?
Michael, are we planning to go to that successor training meeting they've Qual sent out on email?
We plan on going to one of them, yes. Either myself or Lou will go to that, or both.
That's all I have.
Roberta?
Yes, I have something. You probably all know I'm a real estate broker. And I took a listing a couple months ago on a house that was in foreclosure. And the owner, who was still living there, told me that her water bill was $900. And I asked her how this could be. You know, two months it shut off. That's about $130. And she said that when it was shut off, she's continued to get a water bill every month for $60-some till it got up to $900. And I don't think this is right. Somebody at City Hall said, well, she can get water from next door and put it down the sewer. But if you get a bucket of water from next door, when it comes through the meter, it's paid for already. And when you pay for water coming in, you're paying for it going out. So there's no cost to the city there if you borrow a little water. And then somebody said trash. Well, so you put a little trash in somebody else's bin. When my garbage is collected, if I have this much or if it's overflowing, I pay the same amount for trash collection. So I think that's unfair. And you're really not going after the person living in the house anyway, because the house is in foreclosure. They lose it, they move out, they're gone. They're probably going to leave town. They're never going to pay any more money here. What you're doing is taking it away from a lender. And I have not much sympathy for lenders because they're about 85% of the reason that we're in the problem we are now, the recession. But I don't think it's fair to take money from them for no good reason either. And I know this is an amendment that's been approved by somebody a long time ago, but I think we need to revisit it.
What Councilmember Davis is referring to, we have an ordinance on the books that says if somebody's living in a house, they're responsible to pay water, sewer, and garbage. And sometimes people stop paying, we have to shut that off. And they keep living in the house. So there's still services that are still being provided. So that's the way the ordinance reads, that's the way staff has interpreted, and that's the way we move forward with it. If the council would like, we can have our finance director work with our city attorney and bring back a report on that if you'd like, why it's that way or how it got that way, whatever the council so chooses at this
Well,
point.
if the water is shut off, it's shut off. Now, if they turn it back on, that's a problem. I think they should be fined for that. But if it's shut off and they're not getting any water, I don't see how you live that way, but some people are. And the trash bins were picked up when the water was shut off, so they're not using their trash cans. And PG&E shuts your lights off. They want what you owe them now, but they don't go after you every month for more because you're not using it. It's shut off. And I feel the water should be treated the same way.
Well, I think, again, I don't believe I was here when the ordinance was passed, but at some point, they're using the trash. Whether it's their trash can or somebody else's trash can, whether it's a public trash can at the parks. I mean, people are living in these houses, they're putting an impact on the service. That's what I understand the intention of the ordinance to be. But again, if the council so liked, we can do a report on this and bring it back to you. I'm looking for council for direction on this. And
I guess my question, excuse me, my question would be how if what you stated is that we are charging them for services that we're providing, and yet we don't even know that we are providing any services. If their trash cans are gone, if their water's shut off, what services are we providing them?
well, if somebody's living in a house, do they not generate trash?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely, but how do we prove what they're doing?
They gotta be putting it someplace.
Maybe they take it to work.
You know,
The cans are gone. Now, we all, at some time or another, have used somebody else's can. Somebody isn't living in a house, but the cans are still there, the water's on. We all have at some time or another gone over and gotten a can and filled it up, taken it back over there. And if they're putting their garbage in somebody else's can, then somebody else is paying for that can.
Well, Bertie, just to let you know, I don't know what the ordinance is in Newman, but there are some cities that you cannot put your trash into somebody else's can. And I don't know if ours is that strict, but what I'm saying is, the trash is going someplace, and I don't know. I would be in favor of looking at it, I mean, just to make sure that there's no problems, but,
Sure.
because I'm sure this is, because of all the foreclosures that are going on right now, it's probably something we should look at anyway, just get information.
What we'll do is we'll go back, we'll do an informational report for the council about when this ordinance was passed, why it was passed, and the effects of it. We'll run it past our legal and bring something back to you. I know the mayor is going to be out on the 28th of February. Would the first meeting in March be sufficient for the council?
That'd be
Yes.
fine.
That'd be fine.
Okay, then we'll bring something back to you as an informational item, and then at that point in time, you can give staff further direction about how you want to proceed forward with it.
So is this is the current homeowner that's still living in the house that's been foreclosed on? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, the foreclosure hasn't gone to courthouse steps yet, but they're in foreclosure. They're still living there.
So
When-
are there
when it
any
goes to courthouse
services?
steps,
Are
they're gonna move.
Is there power to the house? And
No.
There's no power, no
No
water?
PG&E and no water.
No, nothing.
And the reason I think it's so unfair is because PG&E,
Okay.
they turn it off, it's off.
Just real quick.
Water we keep charging
Chief,
for.
is there, I'm thinking there's
There's some health and
there's got to be some health and safety
issues
issues
there somewhere.
about somebody living in a house with no services.
Okay, what if you have a porta potty,
Well,
or a
I'm-
chemical
it's-
toilet, and you buy bottled water, so what?
I'm just saying though. I'm pretty sure there's some laws that
Well, it's a touchy law, and we've gone through this several times with people. They say that you don't have to have running water, you don't have electricity to live in a house, as long as you're able to maintain if you have children taking showers somewhere else, they still allow them to maintain that residence without those services. It's when they start messing with the electricity or messing with those services that we can step in and do something about it.
So I understand these people are staying in this house with nothing. They have no power,
And
no
they can't,
water,
and
no-
they don't require them, at least the last when I was on board, we couldn't require them to have those services, although I think the city ordinances requires them to be hooked up to the city water system. But once we shut it off,
I would be in favor.
then we've taken that
If they can do that.
step, right?
Say that again.
Once we shut it off, it's our decision to shut it off, so they no longer have that service. I think all I'd like
There's
to see is a
been-
breakdown on what goes to what.
We'll in the report we'll break down the process for
Okay.
you. Lots of times we will go out and just turn the water off. Many times they will go and turn it back on. So there's a big charade going on there. Then you can remove the meter. Then they put a bypass in. There's lots of different things that can transpire. There's a lot of staff time and labor that goes into that. Let's just give you a full breakdown on the process. You know,
Do we
what
know
the current ordinances say, and then bring it back to you, and then we can kind of walk you through, okay, this is how it works, this is when we shut it off, this is what the ordinance says, this is how we handle it, and then you can get a full understanding, and if you believe there needs to be changes at that time, then you can direct us, and we can go back and look at the ordinances and make the appropriate changes.
We don't know if any of this is being circumvented at this particular place that's been mentioned.
I can tell you
This-
it's not, I was in it.
Okay.
There's been a problem with this house.
Okay. So obviously staff is aware of the particular house that's mentioned,
Yes.
and there's been some issues.
In the beginning, there were a lot of issues.
Okay.
What about sewer? I mean,
Yeah, there's no way for us to shut off the sewer.
but I'm just saying, I mean, it's like, under those conditions, if they don't have running water, how can they even use the sewer system?
You know, it's a gravity flow system.
Well, it takes
You can-
water to make that go
You
down.
if you get a bucket from somebody else's water,
Yeah, I've done it before. But I
just-
think there's some
you know,
health
the-
concerns
yeah,
too.
it's not, I wish it was very singular in nature. There's only, this is happening, but there's a big effect on not only that particular unit, but the neighboring units, and then what if you're not applying it, and then,
But do we start setting a precedence too?
there's that potential, so.
Yeah, yeah.
We just need to look at the total, all I'm saying is, when we bring it back, we'll look at the totality of it all, and then, again, at council's decision, you can advise us of what changes you would like to see, and what you think are appropriate at that time.
I'm not condoning living like that, but I don't think, also I can't condone charging for something they're not getting. Anything else, you don't pay for it, they shut it off. But this we keep charging for, I don't think that's fair.
Okay, so staff's gonna bring something back and we'll take a look at it.
Yes.
Okay, great. That okay? Okay,
It's fine.
all right. Okay, and I just have just a couple of things. A couple things that kind of been eating at me. I remember at our last meeting, I had some discussion with our supervisor regarding the ag land preservation. Was unhappy about some comments that were made, and supervisor didn't remember making them, but then at our Thursday mayor's meeting, I invited supervisor to come and meet with us, and along with our city manager from Patterson, and the mayor, and there was some further discussion with the supervisor. I think we outlined some concerns that we had, and I think Jim was pretty responsive to that. So I took it a step further and invited Jim to our mayor's meeting the following Wednesday for him to have opportunity to speak before all the mayors. And at the Thursday meeting, I expressed to Jim again how unhappy I was with some of the comments that were made, and I felt they were wrong, and that I can only speak for myself, that I do care about farmland, and this whole process that we're going through, it's a work in progress. And I told Jim I felt that he owed me and the other mayors a apology for his comments, and he agreed and thought that was appropriate and he would do that. I don't know what you've said to our local newspaper, although when I read the article in the Bee, and I think you probably remember talking to the Bee, Jim, I don't know. I was okay with some of the things you said. You acknowledged the fact that you shouldn't have made the accusation that we didn't care about agriculture, and then you said that their heart was in the right place, that at least they're talking, and the dialogue is better than no dialogue. But then you went on to say, but I'm not sure what they've accomplished. And that's that one step backwards that I talked to you about at our meeting. And I felt that's a step backwards. But when you have the president of the American Farmland Trust, who says that he thinks the county is poised to be the leader in Stanislaus in the San Joaquin Valley, and they're talking about the right things. There's so much conflict, and the point I'm trying to make, and I think all the mayors and Mayor Ridenour has said over and over and over, I think it's time that we work together, not work against one another. And I still feel that you acknowledge that at least we're talking, but then you say you're not sure what we're accomplishing. And I think the dialogue that we have been having with the city managers, the planners, has gotten us to a point where we're starting to see a vision. We're starting to see some areas, and I can only speak for Newman, and I'll stand behind our planning commission and this council and our staff. I think they've done a tremendous amount of work that presented to this council a series of 4 different maps that this council finally chose one map. I think it clearly outlines prime farmland that we're preserving. Again, I can only speak for Newman. I can't speak for the other 8 cities in this county. But I still take exception to the fact that your comment is you're not sure what we're accomplishing. I think we've accomplished a lot. I think we've accomplished a hell of a lot. Just in the 3+ years I've been mayor, attending these meetings, and Mayor Ridenour has just preached the fact that we need to keep on task, we need to keep talking, we need to keep reaching, trying to make some goals and reach those goals, and try to present maps that's a work in progress. And I think the city of Newman has done that. And I know Mayor Molina was pretty harsh on you, as well as Mayor Vieira. And I think the 3 cities that you represent are looking towards you for more continued leadership, and at least helping with this process. And we've always had a member of the Board of Supervisors in some of our discussions, first with Supervisor Grover, now with Supervisor O'Brien. And at least they see the big picture. And I'm just disappointed. And I guess for me, and I've always been a big supporter of you, and I think you are a hardworking supervisor, and you've done a lot of good things. But it's hard for me to continue to support you when you don't support us. When you're not supporting our process, and so I have a problem with that. I think we did a couple steps forward, and the last comment is, I'm not sure what they've accomplished. To me, that's a huge step backwards. You could have probably not said that, and I would have been okay with it. Again, I don't know what you said to our local newspaper, and I can't hardly wait to read it tomorrow, but I hope it's somewhat more positive than that. And I would just ask that you try to join us and try to work with us. If you have some ideas, bring it to the table. We meet on a regular basis, and I'll say it again, in the 3+ years, we've never had that discussion in those meetings. I just ask if you have something to say, let's talk about it in those meetings, so I can then carry that information to our mayor's meetings and say, well, Supervisor DeMartini has some ideas on this thing, and try to work some of those goals out, some of those problems. But these comments is not going to help. But again, Denny Jackman and Ed Thompson from the Farmland Trust, at least they're seeing the big picture. And they agree, they think that we're doing some good things. And I would hope that you would try to join us. And because again, I have a problem, you know, you brought a gravel mine to people to come meet with city manager, myself, and I'm not sure what your relationship is with the attorney that's representing that company. But I see Stanislaus County being one of the prime violators. I mean, the sprawl that Stanislaus County has done far supersedes anything that we've done as a city. And Newman has not annexed anything in the last 10 years. So this mining project, as I see it now, is going to be a big, big problem for us. And I would hope that, you know, you as a county supervisor will take a serious look at that project. And hope the rest of your board members will also understand the effect it's going to have on our community and the 400 plus acres that's going to encumber farmland. So I don't know what the county has done, if they've established any growth boundaries, guidelines, you know. Yeah, and that's my point. You know, the 9 cities are being held to a different standard, and where Stanislaus County is the biggest offender. So I guess my point is maybe Stanislaus County ought to take a look at what they're doing in terms of growth and sprawl, and be a little bit more compassionate to what cities are doing. And the cities are just basically responding to LAFCO. LAFCO is the one that, you know, that said you need to get these maps done, you get these maps done. If you're not going to do it, we'll do it for you. So with that, I'm still a little bit frustrated because there's been a lot of work, a lot of effort put towards this, and when I read comments from our supervisor, it's kind of disheartening that our supervisor is not trying to work with us, try to be part of the solution, is being more part of the problem, as I see it. So I would hope that, I had hoped that after we met in Patterson and after you came to our mayor's meeting that you'd be a little bit more on board. This conversation you had with the B took place on Friday after our meeting. So I kind of took it like, well, our Thursday mayor's meeting didn't help, and our Wednesday's mayor's meeting didn't help with the problem. So, and so far, you know, I've talked to 3 other supervisors, and they like the idea of what's going on, that we are having the dialogue, and we're trying to come up with some maps. You know, 7 of the 9 cities have adopted maps. Patterson is still struggling to get theirs through the Planning Commission, and Oakdale is still trying to get theirs before they're public. So, but I'm pretty confident that all 9 cities will eventually have their maps in place. So, you know, whether you agree with them or not, Jim, it's your opinion, but I would like to see you as our supervisor to work more closely with us than against us. So, with that, I have nothing else. Anything else? We're adjourned.